disabilities, children with disabilities. Those, a good example, autism. Yes, it's a disability. Ama ikapagula disability. Yeah. And we have families with chronic illnesses like cancer, HIV. Those families with children who are indulged in substance abuse issues. We've got single parent households. So all these are good examples of special population under here. So working with such kind of families is a very big issue. It's a very big problem. Now, how can you intervene? Or which strategies can be used when you want to intervene in such kind of problems?
Which?
Working with these families is difficult. Now, how can you intervene in such kind of difficulties or problems?
Using client-centered approach.
Using client-centered approach. Can you explain on that one?
On client-centered approach means much of the focus of the social worker will go on the person who needs the help most, who is not being understood or who needs to be understood by the family. Using social work competence.
Like
social work competence is when you understand the gap of knowledge between the work and the client. And you need to adjust on that by learning about them being your client.
Fine. Now, when you're communicating with such kind of families, which may seem to be a bit difficult to work with, you need to have some skills. Skills. Look for skills that can be used when you're trying to communicate with these families. Which skills do you think can be used?
Communication skills.
Communication skills.
Analytical skills.
Analytical skills. Can you give me examples of these? I mean, skills. Another one?
Problem solving skills.
Problem solving skills.
Now, I'm just repeating what you said. About the deceit. What listening skills? What listening skills?
Can't we find them here on communication?
Yeah.
Because this one you're talking about is just the same as saying active what? Active listening. And this one falls under communication skills. So when you are working with these families who are having these special groups or populations, you are supposed to use these skills. Active listening, which falls under communication skills, and also analytical skills. When you're talking about analytical skills, which one is this? Can you give a good example of these two?
It involves analysis, clear analysis of problems, analyzing situations.
Be serious.
It's when it can also fall under communication skills because you are listening, you are analyzing, maybe the causes, whatnot. It might also fall under.
Another one. We have talked about this: communication skills, analytical skills, problem solving skills. These are some of the skills that can be used by either a social worker or service provider when he is or she is trying to communicate with families with special populations. To add on to this, we can also put here cultural competence. Cultural competence. Do you know cultural competence? Yeah. Or cultural what? Sensitivity. Put that into consideration. What about empathy? Sidi namve.
It's all right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also,
so there are a lot of those, even sometimes conflict resolution and negotiation also is important here. All these are the skills. They are the skills which are supposed to be used or that are supposed to be applied when you are dealing with these families. Now, let me break down. Suppose these families, you are a social worker, you want to work with families who are having children with disabilities. Last week, I just heard about, was it on which radio station? There was a certain family which came in the open to report on a certain issue of their neighbor was locking a child inside the house, and the parents could go wherever they wanted to go whilst the child was locked indoors. It was on a radio, if not on the TV. Family ikutekera mwana mu nyumba chifukwa ali ndi ulumali. Now, how can you work with such kind of a family? It's not all that easy. That's why they're saying you need to have some skills. Now, for families with such kind of children, how are you going to handle that case? You as a social worker, how are you going to handle that case?
She's referring to Kimberly.
You think so? You cannot handle that one. Are you sure? Myself, I believe you can handle that one.
There are times that parents also don't know who even a disabled child can go further with education or anything like that. They just feel like when you're being disabled, it's like a person who has no purpose.
That's inability.
Yes.
Awareness. First of all, is awareness. Yes.
only asking them. It's not like they are doing it only on purpose. You know, they're just saying, "Well, if one ambapo basidiza alituenda omaso zikozopeza kazo kuti mina ifanya chifukwa choti na wakapitisa kukasilira exactly zipo zinjira zose kodiwo amapanga abuse ifanya kuti goruma mamusiya kuti azikhala ikasabasewere naye. So communication and active skills will be necessary.
Okay, fine. To civic educate them.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And to add on to that one, again, you should, you as social workers, you should have knowledge of disability laws and policies. What do they say? You need to study them. You need to know. Osatamangira kunena kuti apopo ndiko zopanga izo zomwe nasandikulira. No. First of all, you yourself are supposed to go through the policies and even disability laws. What are they saying to you? You apply the same things when you want to help somebody who is having such kind of a group of people. So you are supposed to be aware of the disability laws, knowledgeable of that. You as social workers are supposed to be knowledgeable of disability laws and policies. Again, you are also supposed to understand accessibility and accommodation. Understanding of accessibility and accommodations. To add on to that, we did mention about communication strategies or skills for diverse abilities. You are also supposed to have a knowledge of that. You should also try as much as you can to use counseling skills or techniques which are very supportive. And one of them is civic education. You need to civic educate that parent or those parents. And furthermore, you should even also supposed to connect that family to disability resources. There's so many resources. Probably sometimes they don't know how can they go about it. Then they remain to be in the dark side of doing things. So sometimes you need to connect them. Anthu ena samadziwa pofunika kuwaunikira kuti mene mukupanga kuti simukudziwa pali bungwe lakuti limapanga ABCD. Connect them to such kind of groups. Simply because they are probably in the dark, they don't know how to go about it. What about working with families with mental health issues or concerns? How are you going to help such kind of a person?
Guidance and counseling.
Guidance and counseling. Patience. Who needs patience? Who is supposed to be patient?
It also skills. It also needs a good communicator. Also need listeners a lot. Because these people, when they start talking, you're supposed to give them space. The moment you do that,
okay, you should also use this on suicide prevention and intervention. Maybe some of them are planning to commit suicide. You're also supposed to bring medication management awareness. They are disturbed because of ntenda ya kugwa and the like. Fine. What about working with LGBTQ families? Don't judge them. Yes. Respect. Yeah. You need to respect them. Their sexual orientation. Yeah? Dignity. Eh? Yes. Yeah.
Just trying to explain to them Buddhism.
They should be aware of diversity. No, when we talk about family, iwe uko zokandi sister wako, uko zokandi ne brother wako, uko zokandi nzako. You are a family.
No, you are gay. Just say, hey, I'm already gay. No, I'm supposed to be confidential, but we are in class, we are doing this.
So, there is that problem. How are you going to help you as a family? You social workers, to help those families who are having such kind of people inside, indoors. Don't judge them. Remain non-judgmental. How are you going to help them again?
If in terms of medical also, yeah, it's a mind issue. They need guidance and counseling.
Counseling, I have supportive counseling techniques are supposed to be used.
Motivational interview, yeah, G, including G, as you said.
Yes. Sometimes inclusive language. Inclusive language. When you're speaking to them, don't isolate them.
Yeah. Don't discriminate them. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't isolate people.
Yeah, that's what we are saying. Avoid doing that. The kind of language which we're supposed to use inclusive language, kind of. Yes. Alipaguru, together with those who are falling within and without. But since here we are dealing with those families who are having such kind of people, Palimaguru, now you're talking to the family or families. Please try as much as you can to ask them when they are talking to their words or children, the kind of language which are supposed to use as parents should be inclusive kind of language, and even terminologies. The terminologies to be used must be inclusive. Awareness of systemic barriers and biases. They should also be aware of systemic barriers and biases. They should avoid those things. What about you as social workers? You want to work with families which are having chronic illnesses in their homes. Chronic illnesses. Do you know a good example of chronic illnesses? Cancer, HIV, AIDS. So you're working with such kind of families.
Respect and mind how you talk. Don't discriminate in your gender. And tone. Akungodwala sawa.
Zofuna zimenezi. Iyo sama zio kuti zisafika pamene. Kwenda enda konse kujankaenda kapena kuba kujadula nkono. Kuba kujankaba usama zio kuti azapanga moko. So avoid that. Avoid that. Avoid such kind of language. Okay, again, you're supposed to have knowledge of chronic illness and management, or you're going to manage such kind of a disease or diseases. There should also be palliative care awareness. Again, pain management strategies. You are also supposed to give moral support and counseling. Give moral support and counseling. And furthermore, you need to connect such kind of families to healthcare resources. Connect them to healthcare resources. So by developing these skills, social workers can effectively support families with such kind of population or groups. I don't know if there is any question on that one. We are looking at skills. And again, it's very difficult to work with vulnerable old people. Why do you think it's difficult to work with vulnerable old people? What about? Old people, when they get old, their minds it's hard to work because come again. Operating with old people is hard. Before moving as they age, as a person ages, their mind tends to go back to the child. Like that of the child. They are not having a time. You're telling them something you don't have. So it requires patience. Who is supposed to be patient? The service provider. And also teach their families to be patient and understanding. Again, another person who can add on to that what our friend has said. Isolated. No as social workers. We have to be there for them, to support them, even visit ours. And also, it is hard to work with old people. One. You should do what? It is hard to work with these kumakala kuchiperewera. Two, physical challenges. Now, listen to this. Working with vulnerable old people can be very challenging work because of various factors. There's a lot of factors that can cause, that can interrupt this communication, kind of communication. To work with them is very challenging. And some of the factors or the challenges that can make you as social workers to work with them to become difficult is one, complex needs. That is to say, older adults often experience multiple physical, like the one which Memory just said, physical, sometimes emotional, and even social challenges. Their needs are very complex. And to meet them is not all that easy. Because you will not force them to like what you want. But you are supposed to like what they want. So it's very difficult. You're on different pages. They have their own needs. when it comes to physical, emotional, and so on and so forth. Apart from that one, we should also look into or to put into consideration the issue of cognitive decline. She also talked about that, cognitive decline. That is to say, when it comes to their mental capacity of maybe holding up things, memory becomes too, yes, exactly. So there's issues of dementia, Alzheimer, and other cognitive impairments that can create communication barriers. Yes, all those things. So such kind of issues or factors can definitely affect your relationship when it comes to working with such kind of people. Apart from that one, again, there is this issue of trauma and loss. That is to say, older adults may have experienced significant life losses, thus leading to emotional vulnerability. And another factor that can interrupt communication is social isolation. Social isolation. What does that mean? It means there's a decrease in terms of mobility, that's movement, loss of spouse, some of them, and even a reduced social connection, which can bring difficult feelings of loneliness. Yeah, to add on to that, when it comes to social isolation, yeah, because they are being labeled different names, and when it comes to interacting with others, they don't like. They will choose to remain alone, yes. So this again is another issue or another factor that can cause these people working with them to become difficult. Another factor that can interrupt you as social workers to work with such kind of people is the issue of health issues. Health issues, this one is talking about chronic illnesses, pain and medication management can impact their well-being. Kauli kawili anthu amene wakuluakuluwa amakhanditi mavuto tinantitira. Lazina mukamba mafupa akuphwanya nsana yemwe achita makuti. You see, arthritis. Yeah. Yes. So these can also cause some problems when it comes to working with them. What about the issue of finances, financial struggles? They have limited resources. Some of them are poor, poverty, and even financial exploitation can add stress. Another problem is stigma and shame. That is, say, the aged or the older adults may feel embarrassed about needing help. They want help, but to voice out, I want ABCD, they feel like, I don't know. Should I tell them I want ABCD? No. So stigma and shame. So they may feel embarrassed about needing help or disclosing personal issues. Ndi amango chifunga basi mwayiwoka nifeka uli kawili mukaonaso nthawi zina mwakatenga kamaka kutawuni kuno mwakatenga makolo kamayola bambo kumudzi mukhale nawo pakhomopo sachedwa kusanzika amafuna kuti iwo aja azikhala moyo wayowoka. They don't like akakhaso ngatika mwana nyumba muja mwakuti they don't feel fine. They don't feel fine. Manyazi ndizina zotero. Again, another factor that can also cause problems when it comes to working with them is the issue of end of life concerns. That is to say, social workers may need to address extension and spiritual concerns. Wakonsekelesa anthu awa. Ngakhale weso sokuza kuti mwina ukozoyamba ndiyo before them. Kumano nthawi zambiri is good kwakonsekelesa anthu awa. So social workers may need to address spiritual concerns. Life after here. And which social workers are supposed to handle this issue? Which social workers? Church. Pastoral care. This one. Do you know there's this pastoral counseling? Yes. Kuzipatala maziwa? Amira sianiz minutes. And your friends, leave those things. We are in class. Mukuziwa kuchipatala kuja kuli mapastoral counselors. Yes. Maziwa? Ngani yake ndi imene pali ma terminal diseases, ma cancer ndiye na hotelo amachita kudziwa. Ma doctors aja mwina they communicate with those people. Mkwauza kuti munthu uyu wakuti wakutayesesa mankhwala. We've given him or her any kind of medication imene achipata tikanachita. Now what we are seeing in him ngati mankhwala sakugwira ntchito, what next? Ndikuti mwina Mulungu yekha alowererapo mulimbikiseni munthu uyu. Ne abwere uyu akupita akufa. Chipatala chikuona kuti munthu akufa. It could be true. Komanso God can reverse that. Ne amafika anthu amene aja. Akafika anthu amene aja amba kuwapasana nawo spiritual food. Kapena spiritual medication. Kwakonsekelesa. Ngati miracle ya Mulungu ingalowererepo ilo wachira atulukamo. Koma ngati kuti Mulungu basi walemba kuti moyo wawo udusa momwemo ndekuti udakonsekelesa. They were given the word of God before passing on. Now, there are some strategies which you as social workers are supposed to use because you're dealing with such kind of difficult families. So social workers, what are you supposed to do? You need to engage them. That's engagement. You need to engage those families. They are difficult, but try as much as you can as social workers to engage such kind of difficult families when it comes to working with them. Now, when it comes to engagement, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to build trust and rapport through emphatic listening. Listen to them. Ababa tukugamba nkhani yakuti kugwira ntchito ndi ma families kapena mabanja amene ali ndi anthu ali ni mavuto siyana, not only relationships. Now you are supposed to engage those families. Engaging, which means you are supposed to build trust. Kuti chabwino tukudziwa kuti muli ni mwana kapena mbale amene ali ni mavuto awawa ndi awo. Komano tiyeni inu ndili mutikhulupirire ife. gatogwirana n'ekito limodzi. You need to have trust. Trust us. Trust in us. Because what you are feeling, we are also feeling the same. Zimene inuwe mukudusana nazo, ifeso tukudusa mziti. Mzomwezo. Sometimes you are supposed to use simple, clear language and avoid using other terminologies which are not okay when you are talking to them. Use simple language. Focus on strength. You need to focus on strength, not the weaknesses. I hope that's very clear. Now again, when you are dealing with these people, you need to provide support. What kind of support are you supposed to give them? Assessment, comprehensive assessment to identify the needs. What kind of needs? Unless you assess the situation. Yes. Because during the assessment, you identify what kind of a need or needs do these people want. What kind of needs do these people want? So you provide the needs, the kind of needs, soon after you have assessed, you have identified the problem. Another support which you are supposed to provide to such kind of people is personal-centered plans. And these plans will address physical, emotional, and social needs of such kind of people. You need to draw a plan, person-centered plan. You should not be dictating the plans, but the plans must be given by either the patient himself through the family or the family giving the plan to you as social workers. But you are not supposed to dictate on them. You are also supposed to provide another support, which is in terms of education. Provide education on healthy aging, disease management, and even safety. Again, you should do, most of the times, monitor abuse. You should monitor abuse, signs of abuse and neglect, or sometimes even exploitation. Are they being exploited? Are they being neglected? Another support which you're supposed to offer to such kind of people: facilitate advanced care planning and end-of-life discussions. That's the support. I don't know if you have some other things to add on to that. If you don't have, let us move on to another issue. Any question on that one? No. We should now go to communicating with the children. First of all, communicating with the children. And these children have generalized children. Could be young offenders or any kind of a child, but who has a problem. Those children are the ones with the problems. Could be young offenders or any kind of a child with problems. So communicating with the children requires a unique approach. It requires a unique approach. Unique approach. There are some things which you consider when you want to deal with children. What could be some of the factors that you are going to look into when you want to start communicating or working with children? What would be some of the factors that you put into consideration when you want to work or communicate with children? Respect their views.
Patience.
I'm not looking at those issues. Age. Mwana ukamala nkulala naye sungala nkulala ni mwana wa zaka 5 mamuza zinthu za mwana wa zaka 14 ndiogwira zosatheka. Even inuyo mukapaka muli ku village kuchaka muli kuti kunyumba mmaona zipo zinthu zina zakuti mkozo kucheza naye mwana wa zaka 12 13 14 koma mwana wa zaka 6 you cannot share those issues with mwana wa zaka 6. Another factor which you look into is developmental stage. Mugamba ukambira za muntu za nyamata ndio nsikana ukambira ni mwana wa zaka 12 zokuzana I mean 12 beta ko mwina mwana wa zaka 7 za nyamata wa zaka 16 mukozo ukambirana naye that developmental stage. Commence you look into the individual needs. There are some tips which you are supposed to use when you're working with the children. One of them is language, selection of language, use of language. You choose. It's not supposed to work like that. You need to explain complex ideas depending on the perception of things according to his development or her development. So use of simple language that will help to explain complex ideas in a clear and good manner. Sometimes when you are communicating with a child, please try as much as you can to humble yourself and be like him or like her. Yes. Because you are living in two different worlds. Ana jama kala mdziko lao. Inusu muli mdziko lanu lanu. Ndemu kamauza zimene mauza ndayo zina yuwa makhala kudaba kuti kudakuluwa. Tuenda tripa page imozi. Be patient. Be patient. Allow them to process information and respond at their own pace. Use non-verbal communication. Sometimes you can use facial expression, gestures, and even touch can convey empathy and understanding. Mwana mwa chisanzo wapuntwa kabina mwina anagwa pa wagwa mapedo yake sura mvula mau ungo ntenga ungo mpaka pamutu wapewa your consent au nisa kuti muntu is consent sio so do that. Be present when you're communicating with them. Be present. To be present, what does it mean? Be present. What does that mean?
You should be there for them, no matter what.
Attentive. That's eye contact. Is paying attention. Listen actively. Pay attention to their thoughts, feelings, and even concerns. It means you're on the same page. So my factors, age, sometimes development stage. When it comes to development stage, we are looking at the emotional development, because our world in transition, they're still developing it. They know even emotionally help build trust when you consider about this emotional development. That is to say, you are helping them to build trust and so on and so forth. There is social development, which will promote relationship, empathy and social skills. Cognitive development, which will promote language skills, so problem solving and critical thinking. All those, these are what do you call? They are developments which you need to put into consideration when you are trying to communicate with the children. And you need to know that when you are communicating with the children, you are supposed to have effective communication. And to have effective communication, it means the things which you look into are those active listening, simple language, non-verbal, kind of communication or expression, empathy, open-ended question sometimes, patience, and so on and so forth. So those are the issues which you're supposed to bear in mind. And you're also supposed to be supportive. Be supportive to them when you're communicating with them, encourage them, or encourage the environment which is conducive to whatever they are doing. That's very important. You are also supposed to justify a kind of communication which you are using or you are doing with a child or with children. So the rationale for effective communication or justification, can you justify the kind of communication you are having with a child? Yes, if you can justify or you are going to rationalize the effective kind of communication, that is to say, what you are doing is for you to build trust and rapport. That is to say, you are trying to encourage open and honest interaction, kind of. You are also trying to foster emotional intelligence. That is to say, you are trying to develop self-awareness, empathy, and social skills. You are also understanding their needs. By understanding their needs, that is to say, you are trying to help them identify and address their requirements. That is to say, you are rationalizing effective communication with them. Somebody did mention about entering the world of children. What does that mean? Entering the world of children. Entering the world of children. What does that mean? Yes, when you are entering their world, that is to say, you are seeing things from their perspective. Mukuzona zintu mene iwo wachinyamata akuzionera. Kapena ana akuzionera. Again, you are understanding their thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Apart from that one, you are also sharing their interest and curiosity. If you have entered their world. Again, you are using their language and communication styles. They have their ways or their means of communications or communicating. They have their own languages, bold, sharp. You are in their world. You are also, if you have entered their world, it means you are trying to explore their imaginations and creativity. If you are in their world. If you are in their world, again, you validate their emotions and concerns. You are also adapting to their pace and energy levels. You are also embracing their uniqueness and individuality. Now, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do if you want to enter the world of children? You should do the following things. One, try to get down to their level. Simungangolowa mdziko limene iwo alimo popanda kupanga zinthu izi. First of all, you need to get down to their level. That's physically and even metaphorically. You need to get down to their level. Again, when you are trying to enter the world of the child, try to use play and imaginations to connect. You need to use play and imagination to connect. You need also to ask open-ended questions to spark curiosity. Listen actively and attentively. The moment you do those things, it means you are entering their world. Use nonverbal cues like gestures and even facial expressions. It means you are entering their world, or you are trying to enter their world. Create a sense of safety and trust. So these things will help you to do those things. Whatever they are saying, you want to enter into their world. Any question? What's that? You don't laugh. He was late, he was sleeping, as we Okay, I did mention about working with the young offenders. Young offenders. You said wanena ndani sina chile kama you can sunga ndiuzi zoena kupanga ine ndilibe ndikupanga follow up apo ndikupanga follow up. I did not mention about that. Inonga ndi mwango topa amatopa koma nthawi sina kwani. Working with young offenders. Who is a young offender? Did I say who is a young offender? Memory, tell me who is a young offender? Explain in English because your friends here walipa focus hapa, which means you want people to listen to us. Young offenders. Who is a young offender? Speak in English. 18. Huh? They are juveniles. Who is a juvenile? Young offenders who are below the age of 18. Okay. Can you give me a good example of such kind of group of people? Can you give me a good example of such group of people? Young offenders. A good example. Street kids. These days, they are being known as well. Are they still being called street kids? Streetwise? Eh? So working with such kind of people requires a compassionate and multifaceted approach. You don't just work with those people. A good example I've said about street children. Anama Street. It's not all that easy to work with those. Akula environment, imene is hostile. Are they friendly? It could be some of them are friendly. It depends with the way you approach. So it's not all that easy to work with them. But there are some approaches which are supposed to be used when you want to work with them. Even today, how are you supposed to handle such kind of people? What should your approach be like? First of all, you are supposed to build trust and rapport. That is to say, you are supposed to establish a positive relationship to them. That one will help them feel comfortable and even to open up. How are you going to approach them? What can you do? Street. How are you going to handle them?
People will be segregating them. People will be treating them as if they're dangerous.
Mwachoka kuno, tapita kwa Bwandiro, kapita Lwan Town, wherever we can find these children. What could be the approach like? How can you approach them? You want to build trust and rapport. How? I'm asking you, how?
Empathy.
You buy them food. By buying them food, what do you want to get from them?
Information about how they are. Okay, just information about them. Because in a thing whenever you're supposed to be friends, being friends, it's like when you start a conversation. That's being friends. And then you'll be talking to them, you buy them food, you talk to them. That's interaction.
Yes. One of them is that one. Fine. So you need to build trust. Definitely, they are going to trust you. They are going to be happy with you because you have established a positive relationship, and that one is going to help them feel comfortable. They're going to feel comfortable. They're going to feel comfortable with you. At the same time, they're going to open up. They're going to share with you whatever they're going through in their environment. Again, what are you supposed to do? Identify underlying issues. You need to identify underlying issues. What does that mean? You need to address the root causes of their behavior. Sometimes the kind of behavior they can display is not that good to you. What kind of behavior do they display? Rough.
Don't you guys? Gang.
Good.
From what you
You were alone?
I was with my girls, of course. They were like, what do you want from us? They went away. Just because we were scared, they kept chasing us.
How many were there?
There were 3.
3, and you were?
4. Big old ladies with dreadlocks.
My ages are probably they were around which ages?
My age, actually, 18 and 19. This story is fun.
No, she's going to share with me. I'll go back.
Then we were like, we started fighting.
So, which means behavior. I'm talking about you need to identify underlying issues. That is to say, address root cause or causes of their behavior, such as trauma, mental health, and even substance abuse. Most of them, they engage in substance use. So when you have time, sit down with them, try to find out why they're engaging in such kind of issues. Kevin is laughing. Yeah, si ndawo izo sama kabuda stage. Amadulia?
We know I mean, no, so you are saying putting name Masuda Jab. Somebody who's smoking is also